Yeehaw! Here I come, hick! Yeah, I'm never gonna do that again. I'm having a bitch of a time settling on a greeting, though. Anyway, today's topic is morality. At the college that I go to, one of the buildings has a very odd quirk. The classrooms are in no discernible order whatsoever. You have shit like room 31 being right between 27 and 45 with nothing else in between. To date, no one at the school can seem to figure out why this is or what pattern the numbers are actually supposed to follow. One could probably see how that would be a bit of an issue on the first day of classes. Despite this, however, I managed to find the room several minutes before the professor, which gave me time to think. Was the guy who put up those numbers on PCP? The class was moral philosophy, and I hadn't slept the previous night, so my mind began to wander into some very eccentric territory. I asked myself, is it moral to be on PCP? This question stuck in my sleep-deprived head for the rest of the day. Now, my stance on what type of activity is moral or immoral is based primarily on how it affects others. If your job is to put up the numbers on the classroom doors and your being on PCP causes you to put them up in such a fashion that they resemble a game of Sudoku, then you have caused a grave inconvenience for everyone who is depending on you. You have therefore committed an immoral act by virtue of being on PCP. But does that mean that being on PCP is an inherently immoral act? Let's say you're out at 1 a.m. in a particularly nasty neighborhood. You know, the kind where you can actually see the pimps slapping they hose, lifeless stocking feet sticking ominously out of the occasional trash pile. A symphony of 9mm firearm discharges echoes through the night.
I have murdered a man, and I want to confess! Hey, shut up down there!
It is the type of environment where a man can be on PCP, walk down the sidewalk, and not even be given funny looks. You stumble down a dark, quiet alleyway and hear a distressed voice wafting out from around the corner. You investigate the situation and come upon a young woman being held up with what looks like Dirty Harry's gun. The man holding the pistol is becoming increasingly rash, and it becomes quite clear that this woman's death is imminent. You hear her beg and plead with the man and learn that this woman is a single mother with 3 kids, and no contact with family. Now, most people in this situation would have no idea what to do. Under different circumstances, you in particular would be pissing yourself. However, being on PCP, you start to believe that you're some kind of superhero, as people often do. You charge the man, and he produces a .357 hole in your shoulder, which bothers you very little.
Don't do that.
You tackle him, and bring down a punch which savagely hammers his head into the concrete, causing him to have a concussion while breaking every bone in your hand. The woman says, thanks, and runs off into the night to go home and hug her kids and have a cry fest. So, this situation tends to be quite different from the previous. If you hadn't been on PCP, a young mother would now be dead, and her 3 children would be put into a shitty state-run orphanage. Clearly, the act of being on PCP turned out to be a morally righteous thing to do. Now, a scenario like this may be rather benign in terms of its frequency of occurrence, but it definitely has happened to someone, somewhere, and at some time. It's more than enough to refute any claim of being on PCP being generally immoral. My point is this. There is simply no such thing as objective morality. Everything can and must be handled on a case-by-case basis. Otherwise, well, people can get killed. This is why there is no morality to be found in religion, because the rigid nature of dogma leaves no room for important exceptions which will inevitably pop up from time to time.